Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this third episode of the Goddess Conference Live. We are here tonight with amazing Goddess Conference ceremonialist Annabel Du Boulay. She's also a goddess researcher, an amazing priestess, and we are very honored to have her here tonight. Hi,
Hi.
Annabel.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
We're so happy to have you. So let's start from the Goddess Conference right away. Thank you for everyone that's connecting now. There's a 10 of you, so thank you so much for being here. Since the beginning, you can type in comments, say hi. We'll be displaying your comments and answering live to every question you have for Annabel. So let's start from the Goddess Conference. You are one of the 9 ceremonialists of the Goddess Conference this year. Uh,
Yes.
which goddess, archetype of goddess, name of goddess will you be working with?
So I'm working with Don, the Welsh goddess Don, who's also the Irish goddess Danu. And I've been working personally with her for 21 years since I trained as a priestess of Avalon. And I was so thrilled to be able to work with her this year because I have been walking her land on Dundon Hill for years with my dogs and my children. And so I connect so deeply with her on top of Dundon Hill and also Windmill Hill. So it is a huge honor to be working with her this year as a ceremonialist and priestess.
What does it mean for you to not rediscover, but wave all the work you've done with her into the Goddess Conference? So to bring it to a different, let's say, wheel or system or a company of different other goddesses. How does it work for you?
I think it's so powerful. Like it's incredibly empowering to bring all these goddesses together that we've all individually worked with over the years, but to come together with my priestess sisters, working with this particular circle of goddesses who are the sovereign goddesses of Avalon is an incredibly profound experience. And I think everyone who's coming to the conference is going to have a very, very deep journey, specifically with the sovereign goddess of Avalon, with these very ancient goddesses of this land. So it's, really exciting.
It's really beautiful that you mentioned sovereignty. You are a beloved priestess of the goddess community. Many of us look up to you for all your work, all you've done, and not only what you've accomplished, but what you are able to build and to bring into the world with such beauty and grace. This takes a lot of sovereignty because I feel many boundaries were in place, many obstacles you had to overcome. So. Still, sovereignty is something that it's triggering for someone. And so how do you explain sovereignty to someone who never heard of that before, and how do you feel personally within?
It's such a good question, and it's such a deep question. And I think sovereignty for me, as you've just said, is so much about your personal experience. And so you are sovereign unto yourself and in relationship to source, to the divine, to your guides. And implicit in that relationship is your past experience. And for me, as many people know, my spiritual beliefs and my complete devotion to Goddess is intricately bound in my personal experience with my children and mothering them. And it was through, like you just so beautifully described, so many deep, deep life and death challenges that I was stripped back. I was literally stripped bare and then had to remember myself. And when you go through that process, and I'm sure so many people can relate in their own individual way to having gone through that process, your sovereignty comes from deep within, from having been stripped back bare to a place of utter humility, and then slowly building yourself back up, but from a deep sense of inner knowing of who you are, what you survived, what you embody, and then therefore what you're here to bring to the world, to empower in others, to inspire in others. So For me, being sovereign is about constantly checking in with myself that I'm in integrity, that I'm speaking my truth, that I'm always coming from a place of authenticity that is completely founded in my relationship with the divine and with my guides and ultimately with Goddess.
There is much of this, I think, in your work, also in the imagery you produce. And I have a question again about sovereignty. In your experience, I think many of us experience sovereignty um, like how society, patriarchal society, and also the past centuries made us understand sovereignty. So, like a monarch or a king or a queen or an authority from above that really doesn't connect with the ground. But the imagery you produce about your teachings, your works, it is really powerful, and it feels like it comes from someone. It's not for pampering you, but it's true. Actually, it comes from someone who's speaking with her own voice, and that is deeply powerful. And so, how can, in your opinion, how can we change our perception of sovereignty from, the burden of wearing a fake crown to the thing that sovereignty is when I speak with my own voice? How did you make that, change in your life where you were able to manifest such length of yourself in your imagery, writings, and teachings?
So I think from my own personal experience, it is about always coming back to yourself. And one of the main things I teach and then help to facilitate with people who work with me is discovering their own light of gnosis. So my aim, my goal is always to create a sacred container where other people can discover their own gifts. So I like to work with two aspects. I like to work with identifying and embodying and honoring those soul gifts that you are born with, that you incarnate with each earth walk. And I like to see them embodied in the archetype of the divine magical child self. And that's why we always need to be in relationship with that part of us, because that is our essential self. That is that part of us that has all our gifts, all our inspirations, all our creativity, and all our soul gifts that we're here to bring into the world. And then I encourage people to work with their stories of survival, because typically it's through those stories of survival that they can find the wisdom, the light from the shadow. And that to me is their path of gnosis. So once you bring those two aspects together, once you bring, a deep understanding and honoring of your soul gifts together with your gnosis, with your path of self-knowledge and wisdom that is typically coming from these stories of survival, then that is when you're in your true power, because then you're recognizing your own truth and what you're here for. And so I think it's just really important to release all attachments to what society says something is, like sovereignty. Because that's like you just said, it's a patriarchal spin on the word. And actually just release that, and then come back to yourself and do that deep excavation and exploration of self and total honoring of self. And so much of that process is about not just honoring those gifts you have and that wisdom, but then also believing that you deserve to shine your light in the world, that that's what you're here for, and so many of us are brought up to either fear shining our light, or to believe that we don't deserve to shine our light, or to believe that our light is not worthy of being shone, and so we need to strip back all those internalized shadow beliefs and behaviors and recognize the divine light, not only in us, but then in each individual. And so as we empower ourselves to shine, we empower all others to do the same.
Wow, that is really so inspiring. I'm blown away. And thank you for sharing this. I think it's a healthy way to think about sovereignty. It's such a crowded word of meanings that have
Mm,
no belongings to the original word. That is such a
mm,
beautiful word. And
mm,
do you think that works also in circle of peers? For instance, you're working with a circle of other 8 ceremonialists.
mm,
So how does that power dynamic, how does that resonant voice within work when
mm,
you have 8 sisters or brothers or siblings in the same circle? How do you make it work?
mm. Well, we're so blessed this year. Like, we have the most amazing circle of priestesses, and I think we're all very strong in our own unique individual rights. We all have a voice, but we're also incredibly respectful and honoring of each other. So it's just got such a beautiful synergy and energy within that ceremonial group, because we all want to empower each other. We all want to listen to each other, and there's definitely no power dynamics that I experience at all. I think it is we're a really strong, cohesive group, where we just want to come together and create the best goddess conference we can for everyone who's going to come and attend, in devotion to goddess and to the sovereign goddess of Avalon.
Wow. We have the first questions for you that
Okay.
referring, I think, to something you said before, which is, could you please later write the names of the places, please? I think it's the places where you connected with the goddess you're working with. So could you
Yes.
please repeat them so people can?
Yeah. Do you want me to write that in the chat? So it's
Oh no, yeah, that will be great. Thank you.
Dundon
It,
Hill
yeah,
and
when
Windmill.
Annabelle writes, I can remind everyone,
There
sorry,
we go.
that the tickets are available now at goddessconference.com for this year's conference, which will be from the 28th to the 31st July. Please do book your ticket. Sorry, Annabelle, it's a bit of advertising time, but I will be a second. It's really important for everyone connected. If you can book your ticket now, or if you can just support a conference, please go to goddessconference.com and make a donation if you cannot attend, or consider writing us to book your ticket for next year, or please be here this year, because it's a great thing to say, I'll come next year, but please let's make it this year, because after the past 2 years it's really important that we gather as a community this year, and we make our best to do so. If you have any complication, please write to us. We'll figure out a way for you to join us. So thank you so much for visiting goddessconference.com.
Yeah.
And Annabelle has written down the things. Okay, so Dundon Hill and Windmill Hill. So I will write them also for everyone. Windmill Hill, I think it's such a kind of forgotten place of Avalon, because
Yes.
it's really forgotten. I mean, everyone. Well, it's of course it's the way things are. Everyone goes up to the top, but Windmill Hill has such a rough power to it, and um, it's ancient. Like, watching the world from another time. That's the word that pop up in my head.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our next question. Everyone comes to Avalon for different reasons.
Mm,
What I really love about your path that we're gonna explore in a second is that your path is so diverse from many other paths I've seen about Avalon. So can you tell us, what is Avalon within for you? How it manifests into the world? What is Avalon for Annabelle?
okay. So Avalon for me is definitely the Isle of the Dead, transformation and rebirth. And my experience of Avalon is that she does repeatedly strip you bare in order for you to really return to your essential self. And she's done this to me in a lot of dramatic ways, and usually just when I've reached a point in my life where I feel she's done with me, she takes me into that cauldron again. But although the challenges and the shadow experiences can be very hard when you're going through them, when you actually come through that process, and you're on the other side, it is so liberating. I mean, I just would not be the woman and the priestess and the mother that I am today without the journey that Avalon has taken me on. So I really feel that she works her magic in a very profound way. I mean, I saw it every goddess conference. I saw her working her magic on my children. So they would arrive and they might be, you know, feeling fear and anxiety in their life because of what they were going through. And I would watch them go on the sort of typical pilgrimage, descent and ascent. So at some point during the week, something would happen. But I would witness how they moved through it. And then by the end of the week, by the end of the goddess conference, I'll never forget this image I have of them walking barefoot up Glastonbury High Street in their little flowing dresses and their veils over their head and barefoot. And they were so liberated. And they would go back home after that week a completely different child. They would be just in a place of total oneness with themselves and liberation and creative freedom. And I think that is the power Avalon has. And especially it's the power for me of the Goddess Conference, that you go on a journey. You can't avoid it. It's like any pilgrimage you go on a journey. But it is a journey that ultimately leads you to a place of resurrection and a place of coming home and a place of empowerment and inspiration. And so for me, that is why both Avalon and the Goddess Conference are so important. I mean, you know, just listening to you now talking about how important it is for people to come and support the Goddess Conference. I wrote a newsletter and post recently about this. It's been such a huge part of my life and my children's lives for 21 years. And I really feel so deeply in my heart that we all need to step up and support it, because it is such a powerful process and experience and honoring and celebration of Goddess. And we really need to ensure that it carries on for many, many decades to come, so that more and more people can experience the power of it and of just coming together as an international community in Avalon, opening to her energies to work with you whilst being held in this safe, sacred container of the Goddess Conference that as ceremonialists we create for you. And of course, Katinka and Marion, the co-organizers, who are doing such an incredible job of creating this year's Goddess Conference.
Thank you so much for this, Annabel. Also sharing the path that your children went through with the Goddess Conference. It's illuminating, because I think we sometimes fail to imagine the depths of such the adventure that the Goddess Conference is, also for people who are not, you know, women, let's say, but also, I mean, for me, for a man, from non-binary people, for all the children and the youth participating. I have seen the most diverse population, let's say, in an event, and everyone is similarly touched and changed and transformed. So thank you for your testimony. It's really beautiful thing to hear, and I feel also for everyone who will be listening to this after we are live. Also, the starkness that you which that sorry, I'm kind of emotional about this. You described Avalon in such a stark way, precise. I really love that, and it's so different, because, you know, sometimes when we say sovereign goddess of Avalon, it is true. It's a magical, you know, fairy place, and it's also Isle of the Dead. You know, the transformation, the deep work. It doesn't need to scare us. And in this, I want to show everyone your website, which is also a place of empowering words, I would say, because you used also describing Avalon some words that you are, I feel, reclaiming. Like you use resurrection, use words as the grail, And then are words I feel that many pagans are not fearful to use, but they're not really. Should I use resurrection? I mean, is it my stuff? But reclaiming them the way you do it, like it's a concept for everyone that everyone can attune to. It is
Mm.
really beautiful. And also, if you go through your page, and also if you can tell us about a bit your trainings, how what's their take on Avalon, and also um, the spirituality itself, because I feel they have such a unique concept, and I would love you to explain everyone what's your work.
Yeah, so I think I inhabit that Gnostic area between paganism and early Christianity. I mean, that's what I majored in my master's and my PhD, back in the 1990s. And that's what fascinates me. And, when I was 20, I spent 4 summers living in southern Italy. And that's when I became fascinated by this interplay between goddess paganism and the worship and devotion of the earth as mother, with the worship of the Madonna in that case. And so I became fascinated by this interplay, and that's what I majored in and became an expert in. And so when I came to Avalon for my priestess training, from that point onwards, I was weaving my devotion to both what I call the Rose lineage and the Celtic Druidic lineage here in Avalon. But of course, they have their roots in the Neolithic British Isles, with our ancestors' core original worship of, for example, the heliacal rising of both Sirius and Venus, and honoring the lunar and solar cycles. And what I'm fascinated in is tracking these lineages. The rose then comes, to ancient Mesopotamia, and you can track the mythos and the archetypal energies all the way down through ancient Judaism, ancient Egypt, the ancient Greco-Romano tradition, to the early Christian Gnostics, who then bring those teachings back to Avalon, to Glastonbury, where they weave together with the indigenous Celtic Druidic beliefs. But of course, they both have their roots here. So it's really a coming back together. And so that's what I specialize in, and that is the foundation and inspiration for all my work. So I teach all about the Avalon Rose lineage, which is this weaving of these 3 lineages, really, of the Rose, the Celtic Druidic, and Avalon. And the apple, of course, is that amazing fruit of wisdom, which when you cut sideways has the 5-pointed star, the pentagram, which the planet Venus traces in the center of her celestial rose every 8 years. And the Druids, of course, worshipped the pentagram, Venus, the apple, as did the Rose lineage. And then, of course, they weave together here on the Isle of Avalon, which is the Isle of Avalon, the Isle of Apples. So for me, that is, I guess, that's my experience. That's my personal devotion in Avalon, is to the weaving of these different lineages and the stripping back of the patriarchal layers of manipulation and distortion to get to the original true teachings of the early Christian Gnostics, which are, of course, founded on millennia of pagan mythology and ritual. And my whole purpose of doing that is not only to challenge patriarchy, but to restore these original teachings, and then to facilitate the healing and empowerment of individuals through these teachings, because they contain the wisdom and the power for us to reclaim ourselves outside of patriarchy. And for me, that's the only way that as healthy individuals we're going to be able to come together and co-create the new earth. is through that restoration and ultimately through the resurrection. And that word resurrection is founded in the heliacal rising of Sirius and Venus, and of the return of the sun, the solar god, at the winter solstice, that our Neolithic ancestors were building their megalithic ritual chambers to celebrate through the rituals of resurrection. So this is where we need to reclaim this terminology and these rituals, because they are indigenous to us and to our ancestors. So instead of pushing things away because patriarchy has distorted them, actually we need to push the patriarchy away and reclaim them. So yeah.
I love this. I love this. It's not common to hear in, also not only in the goddess community, but I feel in the pagan community, sorry, such a strong reclaiming as you do. And it is beautiful because we have many also, I think, beautiful mythology and teachings that should not get lost. So we should be like Gryffindor's sword and take up everything that can make us more beautiful, stronger, and learn from the past. So unravel everything that was in the past and pick up the good. I feel it's incredible what you do. And also, if I'm allowed a Graham Norton moment, can you teach us how to wake up and be this gorgeous every day? It is unreal. I mean, it is really unreal. I mean, sorry, but it really looks amazing. Everything. Can you tell us something about the Avalon Rose Chapel? And do we get to be that gorgeous if we get to the Avalon?
That was really down to my hairstylist and makeup artist, and a very good photographer and very good lighting.
Okay, you look the same now in a webcam. I mean, it's really the same. Anyhow, what's about our Avalon Rose Chapel? Is the place people can visit? Is the place of your trainings? For people who know South Glastonbury, can they come and visit and stay there? I have time.
Okay, so the Avalon Rose Chapel started as a public chapel and centre right in the centre of Glastonbury. So it was in St Dunstan's house, as close to the Glastonbury Abbey as possible, because there, beneath those foundations, are the original foundations of the first chapel that was built to Magdalene by Joseph of Arimathea and his 12 followers, as Geoffrey de Monmouth talks about in his histories. So energetically, the Avalon Rose Chapel began as close to that sacred land as possible, where Magdalene was worshipped. And then after 2 years, I had to close those premises due to the pandemic. And I was somewhat in that hangman's place, which I think many of us found ourselves in the pandemic, of just the waiting and the not knowing and the surrendering and the continual emptying. And then through these amazing synchronicities, I came to purchase a chapel on the Isle of the Dog, very close to Barramump, which the Michael Ley line, I'm literally sitting on the Michael Ley line, it runs straight through here. And then I understood what Goddess needed me to do, and that I needed to become the guardian of this chapel, which is directly beneath the Dog Star Sirius. So it's literally a portal to Sirius. And so it's not open to the public on a daily basis because it is my family home and it's full of children and animals. But I have private groups here, which is amazing. So we just held our Avalon Rose Community Day and Priestess Initiation Ceremony here. And it was so profound holding it here, because everyone who comes here just says the energy here is incredible. It's you can tell there has been so much prayer here. And we had a very, very profound fire ceremony, and then we actually created a labyrinth and walked the labyrinth, and I embodied in the center of the labyrinth. And we had Nalini Blossom, my very close friend, came and gave a concert and a Sabai ceremony. And we were talking after, saying, you know, we need to be doing many more kind of private events here, but sort of by ticket, really, so that people can just come and experience the energies here.
So
and receive.
please do join AnnabelDuBoulay.com so you can find a way to get to her trainings and events, because she's gorgeous. And first, second, she lives in a reclaimed chapel, so every priestess connected, she is living life. So we want we want to get. I for sure I want to be there. So I will check how to reach out for one of your events. And sorry, you were saying.
No, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay, uh, that is beautiful. I asked because I feel that is such a unique. Also, everything found on your website, such a unique research, and it welcomes you with open arms. And sometimes, there's a lot of gatekeeping in the communities. Many things don't. It's like a subscribe and then you'll discover the magic of everything. But in your case, everything comes through really effortlessly. Sorry, that's a hard word for me. And it's very open. So please do visit Annabelle website. It's full of inspiration. I mean, you can subscribe to the trainings, but also have some inspiration. It sure inspired me. Going back to the conference, I wanted to ask you about, you have an extensive researcher activity on your shoulder, and in everything you've done, all your trainings, everything you've done is based in somehow in communities, developing communities, how to explore the relationships within a community and how to solve it. How do you feel the concept of community has changed over the past 3 years, and how are you working in your communities, in the circles you're having right now? Do you feel there's a difference? How has it changed for you in the past 3 years?
Well, I think like everyone, I had to stop working in person because my son was clinically extremely vulnerable. And so I was already working online anyway. So I was, very, very fortunate in that sense. So I just moved all my work online. And obviously, I was just teaching this in my practitioner training last night, actually, the difference between working online and in person. And although there are obviously things that you can't do online, like certain rituals or ceremonies or embodying, we have reached such a depth in our sharing circles, both with my Avalon Rose Chapel Priestess training and with my Rose Moon membership training. I've got the most incredible women in those circles. And of course, we can come together from all over the world. So actually, in a way, the pandemic has done us a bit of a favor in that sense, is that we've come together online and created these online international communities where, we've got women from all over the world coming together and just sharing so deeply. It's so profound. So I think that's really exciting, actually. But then I've just run my first Mary and Michael pilgrimage in Glastonbury. So it was the first time that I had worked in person since February 2020. And it was just incredible to be back in person. I mean, and to be on the land. And again, I had the most incredible group of women. And what it felt like is that we had contracted as souls to come together to do the energetic work we needed to do at each of the sacred sites. And that's the power of working in person and coming together in person. So I think with community, it is just a case of doing both, of carrying on growing those online communities, international communities, but then also coming back to the in-person. And that's why I would just really, really recommend that anyone who can come and attend the Goddess Conference in person comes, or like Marion said, potentially buy a ticket and donate it to someone else, because when we come together in person, we create such deep magic. Those ceremonies are impossible to create in any other way, because it is the land that holds us, and it is just incredibly powerful.
Kristen Knight says, I'll be there and we will be waiting for you, Kristen. So thank you so much for commenting and being here with us tonight. Some of the ceremonies are in deeply loved places, like we'll be having a ceremony. I don't know if I'm doing like a Marvel-like spoiler where I shouldn't be saying things. I'm gonna get fired for this. I think we're. No, I think Marion said that in the last live, so I can say that. We we are we're doing ceremonies in the Chalice Well,
Yeah.
which is a deeply sacred place and also much loved place. And it's going to be a first time for me having a ceremony there because I haven't
Wow.
ever had the occasion. Um, how do you, in your vision of Avalon and in your spirituality, how do you connect to the place of the Chalice Well, which is a beloved place of Avalon?
Yeah. Oh, just so powerfully. I mean, the Chalice Well just means so much to me. I've literally been going there since the first day I came to Avalon in 2000. And it's the blood spring. So I work with it deeply at the point of the sacred marriage between the blood spring and the white spring. We work so deeply with that concept of the sacred marriage with those waters. But for me, also, it's the well of my memories. So it holds not only the ancestral memories of all the priestesses and priests who have worshipped there, but it holds all my own personal memories, like all the tears I've cried into that well, and all the dreams that I fed into those waters. And there is something so deeply, deeply otherworldly. I mean, I feel once you walk through the gateway of the yew trees, you are entering the other world. You are truly entering Avalon. And I was very blessed to initiate as a priestess of Avalon 20 years ago in Chalice Well at night. And then I helped to initiate all the priestesses who were coming after me. And then I've also run a lot of retreats there myself. And I was just there recently having private access with my pilgrimage. And for me, it is possibly the most powerful place in Glastonbury and in Avalon to hold ceremony. So I am so excited that we're going to be holding an evening ceremony there, and then going straight to facilitate the Lammas Fire ceremony, which is by far my favorite evening and ceremony of the Goddess Conference every year. I just love that with a passion, working with the fire and the dancing and the drumming and the singing. And it's so joyful. It's just such an incredible celebration when we all come together around that fire. And it's an amazing opportunity to release and then to truly dance it out, drum it out, chant it out, and just leave on such a high that night, just feeling so liberated. So I'm really excited about that.
Thank you so much, Annabel. Really, thank you for this sharing. I want to remind anyone who will be watching this video on YouTube, Facebook, or our group Facebook, which is Goddess Conference Participants. It's a free group, so if you can ask to join it, you can join it, even if you ever, if you've never been to the Goddess Conference, we will get you in the group, and so you can see what's going on. Please join us at goddessconference.com, and please check the shop page where you can find the tickets. Again, many options available. We want you to be there the whole time, but if you can only join us for a couple of days, please check the availabilities. There's a lot of options for you there, and also concessions if you need. Please contact us. I want to take a minute to thank Annabel for your deep work, for your resonant light that comes through in all your magnificence. I have to say, I'm really starstruck right now. So thank you very much for participating in this live. It's been an honor to interview you, and thank you for your deep sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and see you at the next live.